Now let's look at the essentials that you need for breastfeeding. Yes, of course, you only need your breasts for breastfeeding, but there's a few useful items that you can have with that as well. Now, obviously, the first thing that everybody thinks about is breastfeeding bras. Now, if you've looked at breastfeeding bras, you can find that they can be upwards of $80, $90 for a breastfeeding bra. And if this is your first baby and you've never breastfed before, I'm going to suggest that you possibly even just look at the Bonds type bras that you can buy at Target or at Kmart or those places, just so that you've got something that has got clips at the top and expose just this breast, for example, if you're breastfeeding, and then you keep this one closed as well. So from my perspective, it's really good to have something that is stretchy, because when your milk comes in, your breasts are going to get larger. And so you just need something that's going to accommodate them, but something that you can unclip as well. Now, one of the things that I do suggest that's very useful is to be able to actually get these Bonds tops, because when you unclip this side and you open up your top, you're actually not completely exposed because your stomach is still covered. So you can put a Bonds top on and then just have another top on over that. So this is what gives you the sense of at least not exposing yourself too much. So have a look at those. And then after a couple of weeks, if the breastfeeding is going well, your milk is in, everything's settled down, you then know what size to purchase when you're looking at a breastfeeding bra. And then you can look at purchasing a few more expensive bras if that's what you want to do. We do know that you're going to need nipple cream, so make sure that you've got something that is lanolin based. In other words, either the Lancino, which is the most popular brand, or Marcolan or Pure Lan. This is purified lanolin, and it's just there to keep your nipples supple. Please make sure that it goes into your bag to hospital, because if you get to hospital and you don't have any nipple cream with you, most hospitals don't have any with them, and you might have to send your hubby out to the shops to buy something. So please take this within your nappy bag. You're going to need some breast pads. The one thing to make sure about as well is that lanolin stains your bras. So I would suggest then that you put on some breast pads. You can either use disposable ones. You want to go the route of the reusables. There's plenty available on the market as well. The other thing you need to think about is clothing that you can expose your breast to be able to breastfeed in public, but you're not feeling like you are exposed yourself. And as I said to you, the Bonds tops work well, but there's lots of other options. You've got clothing that, for example, like this one just has a clip at the top and you can bring that down. You have zips underneath the breast, you have zips around the sides. So there's lots of options of these clothing as well, so that you can be able to breastfeed your baby while you're in public, but you don't feel like you're being exposed. Now, breast pumps is really a difficult thing to talk about, especially if you haven't had a baby yet. We really don't know whether you're going to need to use a breast pump or not. So what I normally suggest is that you can have a few things on standby that might be able to help. For example, this very inexpensive Harker pump. It's just an all-in-one silicone device that you can use to squeeze, and when you squeeze it and you pop it on your breast, it vacuums to the breast, and then when you let go, it actually keeps the vacuum in place, and that just draws milk out of the breast. Now, you might have seen these used in different places and suggested that you put this on while you're feeding the baby on the one side so that it catches the letdown. Yes, that can be done, but I do find because of its long design, you're often trying to keep the breast pump in place or the Harker in place, and you don't place the baby correctly because you're worried about the baby kicking the Harker off and making a mess of the milk. Now, this is why I don't suggest that you use this to catch the letdown. Obviously, Harker realized this, and they did come out with another one called a ladybug. This ladybug is small enough to fit inside your bra, and so you can pop it on the one side while you're feeding the baby on the other side, and it does catch the letdown. But I do find, however, catching just the letdown, this might mean that you're just gathering all of your fore milk and not the hind milk for the baby. Now, in the Newborn Essentials course, I talk about the difference between fore milk and hind milk. So sometimes you might find that it's actually not really necessary to catch your letdown. Where I find, however, the longer Harker works really well, for example, if a baby starts to sleep longer at night and you wake up and your breasts are really full, you can use the Harker to take off the excess, and then you go back to bed and wait for your baby to wake. The other place that the longer Harker is very useful as well is if for mums who overproduce milk. For example, if a baby just fed off one breast and does not want the other one, and the other one is so full that you run the chance of it becoming engorged, then the Harker can be used to empty the milk out of that breast. And because you're not pumping milk out, it actually doesn't give the body the message to make more milk, and it can help you to settle your milk supply down as well. Now, that's just if you want to drain off excess milk. However, if you need to pump your breast because, for example, your baby is not feeding for a particular feed. In other words, your baby's been given a bottle of express milk and you need to empty your breasts, because if you don't do that, you're going to end up again with engorged breasts. We do obviously have handheld breast pumps, and so therefore this handheld pump, we must remember, needs to be pushed at least every couple of seconds to get the rhythm going so that you can pump the milk out. And that can make your hand really tired. So I do recommend, if you're going to be doing any form of pumping, that it is essential to have an electric pump. Now, it's very difficult for me to talk about brands because, again, remember, I don't get paid by anybody to promote their product. But when I'm looking at an electric pump, I'm looking for something that's going to work really efficiently. This is the brand Ardo that I decided to stock in my practice, and it has worked really well for my clients. You can't find it in shops, but you can find it online. The Calypso was the original one that they came out with and can be used as a single or a double. Now, this is where we have the choice. Do you buy a single pump or do you buy a double pump? Well, a single pump, if you're going to be using it every now and again just to express your breast because your baby requires a bottle occasionally, will work really well. But for mums who are doing a lot of expressing, especially if you're expressing after feeds to gather some more milk so that your baby needs a top up, it's actually better to have a double pump. Really, the double pump will save you a lot of time because you can do both breasts at the same time. For example, if your baby is in a special care nursery and you're needing to pump for the baby before the baby can start to feed. So therefore, I do find the double pumps actually work much better than just a single pump. And it can help to increase milk supply because it's like a mum feeding twins. It'll increase your prolactin level. Now, expressing doesn't always increase milk supply, and that's a very long topic, and we won't go into that at this particular point. Now, Ardo have just come out with a new one called an Alyssa. It's a really small pump. It fits pretty much in your hand and has all bells and whistles on it. Lots of things that you can do with it, very adjustable, and will be adjusted on your phone as well. So there's an app that comes with it, and it's really a great little pump. Now, again, remember that the more you pay for something, usually the better the pump is. Just don't go according to the box. Yes, it'll tell you that this is the best breast pump. Yes, it's going to tell you on the box that this is the pump that's going to help you to produce the most milk. But don't listen to the boxes and don't read the boxes. Again, do your research. One of the other pumps that are very popular in Australia is the Spectra. And I do find that that works really well. However, it's fairly bulky. So if you're going to be wanting to go back to work and need a pump to be able to express with at work, first of all, I would suggest a double pump, and secondly, a really small pump that you can carry in a bag that won't be so bulky for you to carry around. One of the topics we really have to speak about is borrowing a pump from somebody else. A friend might say to you, "Oh, I haven't used this pump in years. Here's the pump, you use it," and it's been stored at the back of her cupboard somewhere. Now, this can be quite dangerous because if that pump was not cleaned correctly and there was contamination from the pump kit into the pump itself, then we could be contaminating your milk and this could make your baby sick. So I want you to check, is this a closed system before you receive a pump that has been lent to you? So for example, I'm going to use this Ardo kit to explain to you what a closed system is. This means that there's some sort of a valve that stops the milk from coming from the actual bottle collection kit up into the tubing and therefore contaminates the pump. Please make sure that is this a closed system before you borrow a pump from somebody else. Now, a very important point then is if this is your first baby and you're going to pack your own pump away when you've finished, I want you to make sure that you have sterilized everything. You take all your bits and pieces, you sterilize the whole lot, you make sure it is completely dry before you then pack it into a Ziploc bag that then will be able to be popped into the back of the cupboard together with the pump. Wipe the pump off completely because you'll be surprised how much milk residue you'll find actually on your pump. So make sure that this is all be done before you pack your own pump away. Yes, you can hire pumps from some councils, and you can also hire pumps from some lactation consultants and also from various shops as well. So if you're not sure, sometimes you can hang on to whether you need to buy a pump or not. But if you do this, make sure that you've got a pump on standby that you can hire from somewhere so that you can make sure you have a pump if you need it. You will know within the first couple of days after you've had your baby and you're in hospital, if you start needing to use a pump, that's when you need to organize that you've got something on standby before you go home so that you can carry on pumping your breasts. Because if you don't keep pumping, and let's say your baby's in the nursery, your breasts are just going to overfill, you could get mastitis, and you could end up with your milk supply dropping ultimately anyway. So really, this is one of those questions. If you want to have the comfort of knowing you have a breast pump, there's a few things that you need to look for. Making sure that you have, as I have recommended, a double pump, making sure it does fit into your budget, making sure you've done your research. What sort of suction system is it? How adjustable is it? And that's why I prefer the Ardo brands, because they really are very adjustable. And therefore, you need to make sure, have you been able to purchase something that is usable for yourself and will last you a long time as well if this is your first baby. I hope that that has helped you to clear up some of the things that go around breast pumps. Now, of course, when everybody thinks about breastfeeding, they always think they've got to buy a breastfeeding chair. And there's nothing further from the truth. You don't actually have to have a special chair that you're going to feed your baby in. For example, some of them could be really expensive. So you've thought about your nursery and you've thought about all the things you're going to put into the nursery. And you've got the special chair in the baby's room, and this is where you're going to sit and feed the baby. And often what happens is you end up sitting on the couch feeding the baby, or in your bed, and in different places. And so sometimes that special breastfeeding chair that you did purchase often doesn't get used. So really sit and look around your house. What is in your house? You need a comfortable chair with arms to be able to sit comfortably in. And if you're going to go and buy a specific breastfeeding chair because that's what you want, then I find that this LD breastfeeding chair, even if you just pop in LD breastfeeding chair, this one will come up. And honestly, it's a really good chair to have. But again, remember, you might want to sit on the couch, and this mum is perfectly comfortable sitting on her couch with nothing around her, and she's comfortably feeding her baby. But what I would add always is just a little footstool. In other words, just one of these plastic footstools that you buy from Target or Kmart. And we know that when you're using that little footstool, it just raises your knees up so that you're not sitting with your feet sort of up on your tippy toes, because that's often what I find what happens with mums, because they're trying to draw their knees up. And so they end up lifting their toes up, and it can give you cramps in your feet. So just a simple little plastic chair added to whatever chair you find is comfortable to sit in your home. Once you've decided where you're going to feed your baby, some of the things that are important is to make sure that you've got your area around you prepared. In other words, that you've got somewhere to put something to drink, something for you to snack on, and possibly something for you to read, even some music on, because once you are sitting down to feed your baby, it can take quite a while, and you want to make sure that you're comfortable and you don't have to get up and go and grab a glass of water, for example. Even the other suggestion that might work very well is to have something like this little caddy, where you can put goodies in it, and it doesn't matter where you're feeding the baby. You can take this around the house, and then you've always got it with you. For example, you might have some nappies inside there, or you might have the wipes, and even, for example, changing mats. I just use these plastic puppy pads because I place them on my scale, because invariably I end up with some sort of accident happening on my scale, whether it's wee, poo, or vomit, and therefore my scale is protected. And trust me, you'll only ever once have to change your entire bed linen because the baby weed on the bed and you didn't have a plastic protector under them. And you'll only, as I said, do that once, and then you'll make sure that you always have got protection under the baby. Never trust that end of the baby, because you can have lots of accidents. So having these little change mats, you can change the baby on the bed, you can change the baby on the couch, and you're not worried about the baby weeing all over the place and making a mess. And of course, we've got our proverbial hand sanitizer. It's really important to make sure that when you have changed your baby's nappies, that you clean your hands. If you have had them soiled by poo or something like that, make sure you go and wash your hands before you touch your breast, because you can contaminate your breasts with what is in the baby's nappy. Let's talk a little bit about breast pillows. This is often a question I get asked. What type of breast pillow should I be purchasing? And often what I say, don't purchase a breast pillow. And you might think I'm a bit nuts, because you've heard all about breast pillows and how you need a breast pillow. Well, you actually don't. And you know, the difficulty is that there are so many different variations on the market. For example, there's this one, which is the most commonly known one. There's also an example of this one. And this is probably my least favorite of all breast pillows, because it's too firm and you actually can't get yourself and your baby into the correct position. We've also got other designs, and for example, the milk bar. Now, because there's so many shapes and different sizes on the market, you don't really know how to be able to purchase this. And it's difficult to purchase while you're pregnant, because you can't try it on because you've got your bump in the way. You don't know when you're holding your baby what you're going to need around you, particularly if you've never had a baby before. That's why I'm going to say to you, hold on, don't purchase a breast pillow. Because, for example, you can't cart it around wherever you're going. So therefore, you're going to have to learn to feed your baby and hold your baby and position your baby without a pillow. Now, during the Newborn Essentials course, I do cover specifically what position to put your baby in. So please check that course out and make sure that you know how to position your baby. What I normally do is I work with what you've got in your home, and that can help you to get comfortable. Because the most common thing is that people think that the baby should be lying on the breastfeeding pillow. But then what I find out is you're actually bending over because you've lain the baby on the breastfeeding pillow and you think you have to bend your breast over to the baby, and that doesn't work. Therefore, what I say to you is I'm working with what is in your home. For example, just a pillow under this mum's arm and a rolled up blanket under this baby's bottom. Or, for example, this mum is sitting on her couch and she's just leaning back and the baby is comfortably positioned on top of her. So you don't really need a breastfeeding pillow to get yourself comfortable. The one time I do break my rules, however, is for twins, especially when they're newborn and they're little, because you're going to have to hold both of them and you do need support to hold them. As they get older, we can put these babies in different positions, but in the beginning, I do suggest that a twin mum has a breastfeeding pillow. Now, the other thing that you will need is some burp cloths. They will be handy to have around with you, and honestly, sometimes the best thing to purchase is some old toweling cloth nappies, the old style toweling cloth nappies, because these ones are lovely and absorbent. They're relatively big. You can just throw it over your shoulder and you've always got a cloth with you. So really have a look at those. You can get them at Big W and other places as well. Now you do have specially made burp cloths. For example, a friend of mine has a business called Poppy Sunriso, and she makes some lovely burp cloths, and they're shaped like this, again, shaped to go over your shoulder, and you would use the toweling surface to absorb whatever is coming from the baby. And then you're going to need some bibs. Now, I was given plenty of bibs with my baby shower, and I looked at the piles of bibs and I thought, I'm never going to use this many bibs. And then my son started teething, and oh my word, it's like he turned a tap on. So yes, bibs are useful as a newborn if they are a bit spitty up, and they do have a bit of spit ups here and there. But I do find that where you really are going to start using bibs is when your child starts teething and there's lots of drool coming out. Then you literally need a bib. It's like you've turned a tap on and you constantly have your baby with wet clothes if you don't have a bib on. So don't be concerned if you get given lots of bibs. You're going to use them. Trust me on that one. So really that summarizes the things that you're going to need for breastfeeding. So making sure that you're not buying the things that aren't essential, but are having some things that can help your breastfeeding journey to be a bit more comfortable.